Well, it's my pleasure to welcome everybody to today's webinar. Today's webinar is titled the Department of Energy SBIR STTR Proposal Tips, and we're going to be about an hour in length today. I'm Robert Brook. I'm the Director of Federal Funding Programs here at CIT. CIT's mission is to accelerate the next generation of technology and technology companies. Do this. We are a nonprofit in plugging the gaps at the early stages of innovation continuum. We help entrepreneurs launch and grow high-growth technology companies and create high-paying jobs of the future. A quick overview of the program that we have that supports the SBIR and STTR community here in Virginia. My role is to assist companies in their efforts to learn about, like today's webinar, as well as other workshops and other mentoring programs that we have, provide one-on-one consultation and mentoring. So give me a call if you have any questions about that. We work exclusively with Virginia-based companies, so if you are a non-Virginia company, there are other ways to find out if there's any support in your state as well. We have other referrals to proposal consultants like today's consultant. We have an investment team that I engage with for companies that are looking at SBIR but also might be on future consideration for seeking venture capital. We have an investment seed fund called the Gap Fund that we can deploy. So I'm always working with companies to engage with them at the right time. We also have a grant-based program called the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, and it's an annual solicitation that will come out sometime in this coming fall of 2019, and the awards are made sometime in June. So we're about to make awards. We're actually reviewing proposals currently from the last cycle. So keep an eye on that. If you have any questions about either those programs, our GAP Seed Fund or the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, CRCF, go to our website at CIT.org and you can find out more information about those, or send me an email and I'm happy to connect you with the right folks. We also have small awards to help early stage Virginia-based companies hire some of the outside consultants that we engage with, like today's instructor. So let us know if that's something you're interested in. That there's a time constraint for that. We need to make sure there's enough notice for you to properly engage with the consultant. So again, let me know as soon as possible, and we can try to work with you and with the programs we have. We also have other webinars, as I mentioned to you, in next week, for those who are listening to this live, on January 22nd, a webinar on the the NASA SBIR program, so stay tuned with that. And we held a DoD-focused webinar last week. If you're interested in that, we have the recorded version available on our website. And I'll have the URL here momentarily. These are the pre-recorded sessions. We have a DoD series, an NIH series, an NSF series, as well as some other tips from award winners, some tips from our investment directors as well. So a bevy of over 40 webinars are there for your viewing. We are planning to have an updated NIH series this coming March. So we'll keep posted on that. And the URL at the bottom there is one you want to go to. We will send this slide deck to everybody, as well as the formal slides from today's instructor on the Department of Energy program. So we'll send the slides to everybody after today's webinar. And this is my contact information, so grab that. Again, I will send everybody this information as well. And today's webinar is going to be presented by folks from Tech Ops Consulting. Bob Fielder is the founder and CEO. The president and founder of Tech Ops Consulting. Started in 2009. The company is focused on proposal development and technology transition support for small business. They now serve over 200 clients in 37 states. And prior to founding the company, Bob spent 9 years at Luna Innovations, where he led a team of 25 researchers. And Luna has won literally hundreds of SBIRs. So our instructor today, Bob, is aptly capable of knowing the ins and outs of this program from an actual company applicant and a strong award winner perspective. So we're happy to have him here today. And prior to that, he spent 9 years in the Navy as a nuke on submarines, and Bob has a master's degree in material science and engineering from Virginia Tech. And his coworker, Randy Simpson, joined Tech Op in 2014 and is the COO, Chief Operating Officer, and has a tremendous depth of industry experience. Provides him with an important insights into the proposal development process. He's had many different roles that have included a test engineer at Lockheed, an engineering estimator at Boeing, program director at Fairchild, a proposal trainer and consultant at Shipley Associates, program director at Honeywell, and several other positions. So between Randy and Bob today, you've got a great level of experience from very different angles, from proposal writing to actually from the company perspective, from large projects to small projects to team building. So we're really happy to have them on today. Let me go ahead and load their presentation up here shortly. There it is. And beginning, as I give you the, go ahead and I'm going to give you the keyboard and mouse, Bob, and it's all yours.
All right, Robert, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone who's on the line for attending today.
Right, and then really quickly, if there's any questions today, the mics are muted for the attendees. You can use the question box that's in your on your screen there, and don't use the chat. Use a question so we can we'll be able to capture those questions. And so please look at submit those questions. I will then ask those at the appropriate time in a moment, and when we're changing slides, or the most appropriate time. If we don't get to those, we can follow up with you later at a later date. So with that, go ahead. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
No worries. Thanks, Robert. So as Robert mentioned, today's webinar is going to be focused on DOE Phase 1 SBIR and STTR proposal development. Trying to get the there we go. Oh, now I've gone too far. Okay. By way of outline, so first of all, we're going to go through a brief introduction to the SBIR program for anyone on the line who might be new to the program. We're going to cover some critical bid or no bid criteria that we utilize when determining whether or not to pursue a topic, or whether or not to recommend that a client pursues a topic. Then we'll look at some of the key things that we do to facilitate winning those topics, and one of those is to recruit transition partners. And then Randy's going to talk about understanding the proposal evaluation criteria, and we'll emphasize that proposals are not read, they are evaluated. Then we're going to dive into some detailed strategies for writing proposals, how to save time writing quality proposals, and how to really improve your win rate. And then finally, we'll wrap up with the commercialization strategy and how to write a compelling commercialization strategy, which is not just a target, but must include a plan to get to that target. Okay, so just a brief introduction about TechOp Consulting. So we are all former PIs. We've got engineering backgrounds. We know what it's like to support a company by utilizing the SBIR program. We've all written proposals before, and so we've really been in your shoes, and we scope all of our work to target your specific needs and your specific your specific targets. Okay, we work with companies at all stages of the technology development life cycle, including the idea vetting process, specifically looking at topics and helping our clients to determine if those are topics we should be going after. We help with securing R&D funding, of course, through the SBIR program and other federal programs as well. And then we do a lot of work with commercialization and technology transfer or transition. As Robert mentioned, we work with over 200 clients in about 37 different states. Our clients are in every technology area that you can think of, with the exception of medical. We work with companies that are developing basic materials, cybersecurity, remote sensing. It's really all over the map. And this is taking a long time to. There we go. All right, so some SBIR program. I guess I'll go back to this. All right, this is jumping around here a little bit. The basic services that we provide, one is technology transition, where we emphasize engaging our clients with, or getting our clients engaged with end users and system integrators. We take a very proactive and hands-on approach to that. And then, of course, proposal support. For phase 1 proposals, we're maintaining a hit rate of over 55%, whereas the national average is around 15%. And then for phase 2 proposals, we're batting over 90% for our clients, whereas the national average is about 50%. Okay, so now let's go over some SBIR STTR program basics. First of all, the SBIR program is funded by 3% or 3.5% allocation of the extramural R&D budgets for selected agencies. And we'll go over a list of the agencies that participate in the SBIR program here in a minute. There's about $3 billion available in 2019 for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 2 enhancements. Another one advantage of the SBIR program is that it is non-dilutive. So you retain all rights to your intellectual property that's developed on these programs. They're highly competitive. As we pointed out, the phase 1 and phase 2 hit rates are fairly low, and that is owing to a large number of companies that are very competitive at writing those proposals. And one of our goals is to help you improve that win rate and minimize the amount of time that you spend writing proposals. And projects are funded in phases. Phase 1 is a proof of feasibility project, typically funded anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000, somewhere in that range. Phase 2s are for prototype development, and those are funded between $750,000 to $1 million and span 2 years. Okay, some of the objectives of the SBIR program, and these are important as you are thinking about how to write proposals, because you want to meet the objective. Part of your proposal needs to meet the objective of the SBIR program. So one key objective is to meet the R&D needs of the sponsoring program and the program's objectives. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. Commercialization of new technology. Department of Energy places a high emphasis on commercialization and specifically impacting large energy-centric applications where you have a large impact on energy consumption, production, and infrastructure. Generating new technologies, of course, they want to see novel ideas. And DOE, in particular, is their review process is a little bit more, I won't say academic, but academically rigorous than some of the other agencies. So just be aware of that. Excuse me. Then the SBIR program encourages underrepresented groups. For example, companies that are women-owned or minority-owned or located in hub zones. Those companies are all highly encouraged to participate. And then also it encourages technology transfer. So getting technology out of, say, university labs through the STTR program and into commercial applications is another focus of the particularly the STTR program. Okay, some advantages of the SBIR program. First of all, is it's non-dilutive. So the funding does not come with an equity stake like you would see with a venture capital or some other kind of a private investment firm. You own the IP. The federal government does have a right to utilize the IP, but they don't publish your intellectual property, of course. And you are free to go and license your technology and license your intellectual property as if you own it. Non-competed follow-on funding. So if you have a phase 1 or phase 2 SBIR program or project, if you properly scope that project, you can utilize it later as a contract vehicle for non-competitive funding that comes directly from a program. And then there's a defined process. So the solicitations come out twice a year for DOE. For Department of Defense, they're 3 times per year, and most of the other agencies are once per year. But there's a defined process to go after specific funding opportunities. As I mentioned, it's a 3-phase program, so I'm going to skip over this. Phase 3 is non-SBIR, but it is the transition, it is funding that would come from a program office or a commercial organization that is outside of the SBIR program. That is the ultimate goal of the SBIR program, is to get your technology into the acquisition stage and into the commercial product stage. Okay, who qualifies? The company has to be a for-profit company. At least the intent has to be for profit. You don't have to actually be making a profit, but the intent has to be for profit. Need to be under 500 employees, U.S. owned and operated, and the work needs to be performed in the U.S. The principal investigator needs to be employed by the company at least as of the time of the start of the project. Technically qualified, and as I mentioned, the DOE takes a little bit closer look at the technical qualifications of the PI than most organizations. And then not applicable necessarily to DOE, but some of the other agencies like DOD in particular can be ITAR restricted. In other words, we can't share the information with a non-U.S. citizen. Okay, so first we're going to go, and now we're going to go through some of the bid, no bid criteria that we use when down selecting a particular topic. So why do we look at this? First of all, it's overall, is to improve your win rate, and we want to only compete where we can win. Well, we want to reduce our writing time by down selecting early in the process. If you spend a lot of time writing a topic that's destined for failure, you're going to waste a lot of time and spend a lot of money that way. And we're going to look at 4 critical bid, no bid criteria, and we're going to jump into those specifics right now. Okay, so these are the 4 things that we look at when we are looking at a solicitation topic. First of all, is there an entrenched competitor? Have you talked with the technical point of contact? Can you meet or exceed all requirements, all the technical requirements? And 4 is, do you have a transition partner and a plan? So some of these criteria, and we're going to talk about these in detail now, but some of these criteria are absolute showstoppers. Like, for example, if you cannot meet all the technical requirements, that's an absolute showstopper. Do not bother writing that proposal. Some of them are just place your proposal at risk. Like, for example, if there's an entrenched competitor, you'll be fighting an uphill battle, but it doesn't mean that does not mean that you cannot write that proposal and that you cannot win. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, so the first thing we look for is there an entrenched competitor? Or another way of saying that is the topic wired? So the 3 red flags we look at here on the left, first of all, is there a documented history between the small business, or between a small business and the sponsoring program or the topic author? Why is this a concern? Well, that company, if there's a relationship there between that company or history between that company and a topic author, that typically means that they have a deep understanding of the application space. They performed well on previous projects, and so they're going to be in a unique position to write a very competitive proposal to that topic. Another red flag is are 1 or more references authored by a small business, and why that's a concern is that some small business, your competitor, has established themselves as a technical leader in that area, and so and again, given the fact that DOE looks closely at the technical merit of a proposal, that's going to put them ahead of the game in writing their phase 1. And then here, we see this less in Department of Energy types of topics, but very frequently in Department of Defense topics. But if the topic is very specific, too specific, and in particular, if it emphasizes a particular method to accomplish a goal, that's concerned because it indicates that there's a preferred methodology, and they may have a particular company in mind. But even if they don't, if you don't have that preferred methodology, then you are going to be at a disadvantage when you're writing that proposal. Okay, so we want to look at at least one case study on identifying an established history between a small business and a particular topic author. Now, this case study was pulled from a DOD solicitation, but the exact same analysis can be performed on a Department of Energy solicitation. So what we did here is we looked at the topic authors for this particular topic, and then we looked back at the historical solicitations to see where those topic authors appear on previous topics. So here we have 3 previous topics where those topic authors have been associated with those topics. Then we looked at the awardees for those 3 topics, and here the awardees are listed in the right there. And so you see there are Signature Research and Torch Technologies, have won at least phase ones in all three of those previous topics. So that establishes that there's a track record there of good performance on prior topics because they're getting awarded over and over again. Well, then we look at the references, and again, you can do this for DOE solicitations as well. But in this case, one of the references, we looked at the authors and found that they were employees, either current or former employees, at Signature Research. And sure enough, Signature Research went on to win the phase one and the phase two for this particular topic. So this is just one method that we use to identify potential entrenched competitors on a particular topic. And it just takes doing a little bit of homework. I'm waiting for this to roll forward now. Come on, you can do it.
There you go.
Okay. So next is talking to the TPOC. This is something we feel very strongly about, and that you need to be able to talk with the TPOC on the phone and get some specific questions answered. And some of the things we like to ask are, first of all, what are the key technical challenges? Now, some of these may be listed in the solicitation description, but you really want to find out what's the most important technical challenge, and that'll give you an idea of how do you scope your statement of work and your scope of work and some of the feasibility demonstrations that you want to perform during the phase one. What priority do you place on teaming with a prime or some? And in this case, prime means some industry lead. And for DOE, in almost all cases, they will want you to team with some sort of an industry lead to get your technology into that commercial application. There will be some cases where the TPOC will maybe not want you to team with not the industry lead in the end application, but maybe some intermediate application. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. What are your ideal outcomes for phase one? And again, some of this is going to be listed in the solicitation, but one thing to consider is that those solicitations are written, or they're initially written, probably 9 months to a year before publication. And so some things may have changed or been revised in that time. And so you want to find what is your TPOC's real goal for the outcome of this phase one. Key feasibility demonstrations required. Again, thinking about the fact that DOE is looking for the technical merit more so than other agencies, you want to find out what would really convince your topic author that you have nailed that proof of feasibility demonstration. And so you want to get some ideas from them. And then what is their vision for the end state? How do they see this as an end product? And are there some logical intermediate steps to get to that end product? So coming out of that conversation, what do you have? You identified, can you meet all the technical requirements? And I do mean all of the technical requirements. As I mentioned, that's a go, no go, or that is a no go if you can't meet all the technical requirements. Do you need a transition partner? In some cases, the small business is going to be the supplier or the provider, but in most cases, you're going to want to team with a larger player in your industry, and we'll talk specifically about how to recruit a transition partner here in a minute. And then, do you need a subject matter expert? As Randy will cover in some of his slides, one of the most common debrief comments is, or can be summarized by saying, fail to consider the complexities of the application space. And what that means is, or typically means, is that the person writing the proposal is an expert in their technology in their field, but they may not be an expert in the application field where that technology is going. And in that case, you might want to have a subject matter expert on your team that really understands that application space. Okay, so meeting the technical requirements. And here we want to emphasize studying the solicitation. So these are just some excerpts from the current DOE 19.1 Phase 1 solicitation. And we want to talk about how do we pull apart those solicitation topics. So first of all, I want to look at the top level topic number and look at the description of the program goals and what they're really looking for. In fact, you should also go back to the website that describes that program and understand what are their top level goals, what are their top level objectives. and you want to ensure that your proposal is looking long-term and is aligned with those goals. They'll often list the state-of-the-art, and you want to understand, or you want to be able to convince your reviewer that you can beat this soundly. And then specific metrics. DOE doesn't always have as specific metrics as the Department of Defense, but in some cases they do. And in fact, this one had, I don't know if you can read it there, but this one had some very specific performance numbers that had to be hit by the technology. And again, you want to be able to meet every single one of these technical metrics. If you cannot meet a technical metric, then don't even bother writing the proposal, because you'll not only not win that proposal, but you run the risk of generating a bad reputation with a particular reviewer because you're not meeting, you're not addressing the solicitation topic. Some of the DOEs in particular will specify things that are not of interest, and so you want to read carefully and identify identify if they've listed a particular approach that is not of interest. And if you see that, then definitely do not propose anything that's not of interest, or you will be your proposal will be dead on arrival. And again, look at the topic authors. This is your customer. They are going to be likely the primary reviewer, and they will likely be the ones to select the review team. And so they are your customer. Okay, so to summarize the decision process here, first of all, does your topic appear to be wired, or is there an entrenched competitor? If yes, then you need to consider, do you really need to write this proposal? And sometimes, sometimes the answer is yes. Maybe it's something that's right up your alley with respect to your business plan, or maybe you've got a really compelling technology that's going to oust the competitor. If so, then go ahead and write the proposal. Just be aware that you're really going to have to bring your A game to that proposal. Did you talk to the TPOC? If not, then do you write the proposal? Well, you can, but this borders on a no-go criteria for us. And if you can't talk to the TPOC, especially DOE, your proposal is going to be at a very high risk. And so we would recommend not writing the proposal. But if you do, again, just bring your A game and be prepared to put in some investment. Can you meet all the technical requirements? If you cannot meet all of the technical requirements, then that's an absolute no-go. Do not write that proposal. Is there a clear path to transition to either a program of record or a national lab or a commercial product? Are you going to get your technology out into the market? If yes, great. But if not, if you don't have a plan and you don't have a way to put a plan in place, then don't write that proposal. And then finally, are you using our strategy guide? One of the things that Randy will talk about is we put out a lot of free proposal support. And one of them is a strategy guide that will help you save time and improve your win rate. By way of example, the last DOE round that was announced, I believe it was 19.1 phase 1, 33% of the companies that utilized our strategy guide won their phase 1 proposals, which is at least twice the national average. So just by using that strategy guide, without even having us involved, you can significantly increase your win rate, unless you're already batting it, over 30%. And if you are, then we're hiring. So, all right. So recruiting a transition partner, and this is focused on getting your technology into a real application. In some cases, it's going to be, a DOE national lab might be the end user, the ultimate end user. But in most cases, you're going to be looking for, commercial products and an entry into the commercial market. So first question is, do you want a transition partner? That's almost always yes. Who is going to be the best transition partner? This you'll need to determine, at least the category or the class of transition partner through primarily talking with your technical monitor. They will likely not give you a name of a company, but they might tell you what kinds of a company you would want to partner with. When you reach out, and we're going to talk about how to recruit a transition partner based on not having any current connections into that industry. And so we're going to be talking about reaching out to cold contacts and recruiting cold contacts to your team. And so you want to know, why would that company want to team with you on your phase one? For DOE, we want to focus on industry leaders, but you also don't want to overlook the mid-sized organizations that might be more competitive and more apt to bring in a new technology. And then you want to vet the organization. You want to make sure that that organization can provide what it is that you need to make a compelling phase one case, and then ultimately make a compelling phase two case. So some specific tools that we use. Once you've found the right organization, you want to drill into the divisions within that organization that are going to be most aligned with your technology. And then you want to ultimately focus on key decision makers. You want to find the right person that's going to be able to sign and commit to a letter of support and commit them to supporting you in some way. So finding relevant contacts is key. We utilize LinkedIn extensively here for finding very relevant contacts that are in the area that you are interested in. And then you want to do your homework and understand why they would want to reply to your cold outreach. And again, this is for you're reaching out to new contacts where you have no inroads, and so you really want to be able to hook them and get them interested and get them to respond. And here are a couple of links that we use: data.com, Email Hunter, and there are other tools out there. But we utilize LinkedIn quite a bit. That's a very effective tool. Okay, then we like to generate what we call a technology profile, which is essentially a one-page technical marketing document that we utilize to grab their attention, describe what it is you're developing, and how it impacts them. And I won't drill down into this in too much detail, but what we want to do is provide enough information to get them interested, show them what the capabilities are. Obviously, don't put out any secret sauce here, but just enough to get them interested and get them on the phone. And then this also provides a useful proposal development tool, because if you have a good idea of what's going into your proposal, then you should be able to put this technology profile together pretty quickly. Okay. Next is understanding how the companies work and how specifically how do they like to work with a small company. Well, typically we like to have them included on the team as a funded subcontractor or consultant, even on the phase one, and we'll talk about the roles that we suggest here in just a second. But we want the key is get them engaged. So, and we want them to have we want them to give you a letter of support that says, hey, we're going to help this project somehow. We're going to provide maybe operational requirements. We're going to provide system integration requirements, that sort of thing, and not just a letter of interest. So if you have a letter that states, hey, this is a great technology, we think it'll have a great impact someday, keep us posted on your development, that is not useful. We like to have them engaged in the process. And then allowing time to turn around a statement of work. This is very important because it takes a large organization time to turn around a letter of support and to come up to speed with what you're developing and that sort of thing. So you want to leave plenty of time to do that. We recommend a dead minimum of 2 weeks prior to the proposal deadline to reach out to a new contact. Anything less than 2 weeks, and you really risk burning bridges for future opportunities, because you're essentially coming to them with an emergency or a fire that you're asking them to put out. And again, this is a cold contact. You don't want their first interaction with you to be, oh, hey, I've got a proposal due in 2 days. I need a letter of support. So don't burn bridges. Okay. So when you reach out, you want to have a role in mind for them. In phase one, we typically like to have them on board as subject matter experts, and also they can provide some guidance on insertion strategy or how do you get into the market. And this will roll into the commercialization plan that Randy's going to talk about in a few minutes. But again, keep in mind that plan, the commercialization plan, is not just about saying, hey, there's this big market out there and I've got a great technology that it needs. It's it's describing how are you going to get that technology into that market, and your transition partner can provide a lot of that information even in the phase one. And then just briefly on phase two, we tend to get them more integrated, providing validation testing, maybe providing some more detailed system integration support and that sort of thing. But clearly we need to get them involved at all three phases of the process. So engineering your email. So again, cold contact. They're probably getting 50 emails a day, and you need to give them a reason to read yours. And so the first thing we like to do is we open our email with a subject line that includes the words teaming opportunity. So when you say teaming opportunity in the subject line, that implies that there's money behind this email. And so right away, I'm interested now in opening the email. You want in the subject line, you want to include a couple of words about what your technology is, but don't make it a paragraph up there. Just a couple of words to get them to open the email. And then again, we're doing our homework on the contact, and we've got some solid rationale for why that contact is going to be interested. And so in the first line of the email, you want to cite why you think that contact would be interested in your technology. And so you can either reference a paper that they've written, you can reference their title and job role. In LinkedIn, they'll talk about some of the work that they do. So you can put in a few words to let them know that this is not just a spam email, but it's very targeted. You want to have a few words about why your technology exceeds the state of the art and solves one of their problems. You don't want to make this very long, one sentence at most, and you want them to read that and say, I need that. That's going to solve my problem tomorrow. And so get them interested in what your technology is going to bring. And then you want to break out the thoughts in paragraphs, just so that your key ask does not get lost in the noise. But you want to outline what you want them to do in your phase one or later in your phase two, in just a brief sentence. And then finally, you want to wrap up the email with, this is a teaming opportunity. We'd like you to be a consultant or a subcontractor, that sort of thing. You just want to confirm that you are willing to pay for their time on your project. Okay, so you've got the email out, you've got them to respond, you've set up now a conference call with them. Here's what we want to find in that conference call. First of all, market pull. You want to find what is really driving your technology, or what is the driver for your technology in their market. You want to find technical requirements. You want to find price points, maybe the operational environment, that sort of thing. Anything that you need to include in your proposal that's going to demonstrate that you can operate and that your technology can operate in that application, you want to find out from this phone call. You want to get their feedback on the state of the art and your competition. So the person that you're talking to has likely been trying to solve a specific problem for quite a while now, and they've gone out and they've surveyed the state of the art. They know your competitors, and they have a very good idea of what that state of the art is. You want to get their feedback on that state of the art and make sure that you convey that you understand that in your proposal. You want to have them confirm some novel aspect of your technology, specifically an operational capability. Again, you're not talking about anything proprietary here because you're not talking to them under an NDA, but you want them to confirm a novel aspect of your capability that you're bringing. And then you want to incorporate all of this intel into your letter of support and into your proposal. And speaking of the letter of support, so you want, I'm going to skip past one of these again. You want to write a draft letter of support for this transition partner. The reason you want to do it is because you want to be able to incorporate some key nuggets that you're going to call out in your proposal. So first of all, you want to have them express a need. Now, this is one area where we do want the transition partner to write something about the need that you are meeting in their own words, because they're going to use industry jargon, or they're going to use specific keywords that you may not be aware of if you're not working in that industry. We want to include a call out a quote for a call out box. So why do we do this? The letters of support are at best are going to be buried at the back of the proposal or submitted as a separate attachment. and so the reviewer may not get to read your letter. If you want to have some quote that you can pull out in a call-out box, similar to you see this little blue call-out box here on the lower left-hand side of the slide, we'll include something like that up on the first page or two of the proposal that includes this quote that says, why your technology is great and how they're going to help you transition it to a commercial market. And then finally, you want to highlight some active participation by that transition partner in your letter of support. So you want the DOE reviewers to know that hey, I've got GE on board, and they're going to be actively participating in my program and helping this technology get to market. All right, so I'm waiting for the slide to advance. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so that concludes the go no-go criteria. Now Randy is going to talk about. Hold on. There's a delay here between the time that I click and the time that it actually advances. I apologize for that. Randy's going to talk about the specifics of proposal writing, and we're going to start with how do you understanding the proposal.
Hey Bob,
yeah.
This is Robert. Yeah. There was a question that came through. It regards more basic stuff. Before you go into Randy's, we'll go ahead and answer this question. It says, question is if certain projects have restriction on sharing with non-U.S. citizen, one, how do we ID these topics? And what if we have an H-1B applicant on payroll? Can we still apply and discuss them or exclude them from the project, or include them on the project? So I guess these are more the basic rules of SBIR.
Yeah. So first of all, I would defer to a contracting officer from the agency that you're bidding to, as they would have the definitive answer. Typically, if a topic is ITAR restricted, for example, it'll be listed in the topic description. If you end up with a non-U.S. citizen as part of your payroll, there are all sorts of rules that apply with respect to segregation of information and workspaces and all that. I am not qualified to give legal advice along those lines. And if you're considering hiring a foreign national, you definitely want to get some qualified legal advice along those lines. A good question though, and that is a complicated issue for having a mixed employee base.
Yeah, and especially if you're engaging with the university, perhaps, and they sometimes know they're going to have some students on the project, for example, but they can't list them yet because it's sometime next year. The agency might have, particularly the DoDs and NASAs, or have more issues with those, and the granting agencies, more about national security and delivering the technology to a client like NASA or DoD is different than building something for the private sector. So yeah, as Bob said, you should probably engage with the agency a little bit more deeply on that question.
Okay.
Yep,
all right.
That's it.
So Randy, we'll turn it over to Randy now.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go through some of the nuts and bolts of proposals and proposal evaluation right now. One of the basics is, just the whole great 10,000-foot view of what is a proposal. I mean, people think of a lot of different things when they think about a proposal that's going to be submitted to the federal government, but I will tell you the proposal is very, very simply a sales document. And you need to keep that in mind at all times as you're writing this thing. You're not trying to educate your customer. You're not trying to wow them with your technical knowledge. You are selling your company. You're selling your capability to this organization. So it is that sales document. It's not a research paper. It's not a textbook. It's actually not going to be a fun read. They're not going to sit on the back porch over a weekend, put their feet up and read your proposal. That's not going to happen. In fact, I'm convinced they're not read at all. They're evaluated, because as the evaluator brings a bunch of different proposals in and they have to look at 12 or 14 or 6, whatever, how many they have to do, they have just not had the time or the interest to read every word. They're looking for evaluation criteria. They're looking to see if you met the criteria, see if you met the instructions. They're having to do an independent assessment of all these. And so the evaluation is what's really key. So how do they pick these winners? Well, as I said, they're not read. I'm convinced they're evaluated. The profiles, there aren't professional evaluators in the government. Basically, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time and got yanked into a room to do evaluation. So the process is typically ad hoc. It's driven by the review board chairman. It is hard to do that. It's very hard to evaluate proposals. If you can imagine being in that seat, it is difficult. It's especially difficult when the terminology for the evaluation criteria is not really well defined. So how are you going to solve that? Well, let's make it easy on the evaluator. You go read the criteria very, very thoroughly. Look at what they're specifically asking for in the criteria, and then address that terminology in the proposal. If it's unclear, then you define what those terms mean. That's really, really important. Improve your assertions in there. Help the evaluator understand that. There are other criteria associated, like the qualifications of personnel, not only to do the R&D, but to commercialize results, the potential for the commercial application in the government, the private sector, and they look at cost reasonableness and realism as well. Now, realize that they are not going to be able to pull information off the internet. They're not going to be able to pull information that you may have told them in a phone call, or maybe if you've met the TPOC before. The evaluation has to be solely on the information that's in the proposal. So read this solicitation very, very carefully. I tell you right there where the instructions are, where the topics are. In my discussion today, we're going to talk about the project narrative, which is basically the technical proposal. It's the main portion of the grant application. You've got to have clear, measurable goals and milestones that you're going to achieve. For phase one, it's 15 pages, 7,500 words of text. As Bob said before, it is very important to study the solicitation. As you look at the solicitation, you can see what the program office is, what their mission is. They may list national labs. These could be partners in the phase one proposal and the phase two proposal. You need to find out which of these labs are really relevant for this particular topic. Reach out into those labs and find subject matter experts within the labs, people that have interest in that area. You're going to see technical areas noted in the topic description, and you need to incorporate those into your understanding of the requirements. You're going to also see background. You're going to see comments about why this is important, and that's really important for you to understand that. Where did the topic come from? That's one of the things about the topic author. Ask them, how did this topic come through? What's the genesis of this topic? You're going to find some things about commercial products. You're going to find some words that they think are really important. Like in this case, they talked about commercial products with effective and practical cybersecurity for HPC systems. You need to use those kind of words in your proposal so that it feels comfortable to them. Don't replace their language with your language. You'll notice in this particular page of the evaluation of the solicitation, there's actually some evaluation criteria here. So, you'll see the state of the art. You'll see the topic author's name. It is very, very important to talk to that topic author. You'll look in the references. You need to read those. They didn't put those in there for nothing. You need to look at them and read them. Do you know these authors? Does your solution build on the information that's presented in these references? So be sure and look at that. There are criteria. In DOE, they have equal order of importance. They talk about the strength of the scientific and technical approach, the ability to competently carry out the project, and the impact. And those are all of equal importance according to the FOA. So I take this and kind of translate this into the page allocation for the technical volume. Just use basic math. There's 3 criteria, so a third each. And if it's 15 pages, well, roughly 5 pages should go into each section. And this is the way I do the math. I look at the criteria, how many pages are allocated based on what I just said, and then I go look at all the different sections, which criteria is applicable there, and then I start adding up the numbers. Now the number total, sorry, I forgot to change that, it is 15. But as you can see, this is going to drive the number of pages that are going to be allocated to each section. Now this is driven by the math that we do. It's not in the solicitation. At the same time, I'm convinced if a particular topic has a certain weight in the evaluation criteria, I want to give that the appropriate amount of real estate in my proposal. I think that's really important. So what can you do? Write to the evaluator, help them out, be compliant with the instructions, clearly address the criteria, use their terms. And if a term is confusing, like if they want a solid solution, tell them what solid means and make it easy for them to find these terms in your proposal. To me, it's not unusual to expect an evaluator potentially. They have a PDF version of your proposal in front of them on a computer. They could do a word search. And so if you don't use evaluation criteria words, they're not going to find them. And that's not good. You want them to be able to find your criteria easily. Now, here's some ideas that can help you in writing your proposal. We found phase one proposals can take up to 60 hours of your time, and that's a lot, and it can wear you out. And I believe that if you employ some of these strategies and time-saving suggestions that we have, that not only will your proposal come out better or be more apt to be awarded, but it won't wear you and your team out. So as Bob has said before, only compete when you can win. I mean, think about this. Be realistic about it. Don't assume that everyone is going to jump on your technologies because you believe it's wonderful. You need to really have talked this out with the TPOC. You need to have vetted the topic and just really get some independent assessment of your chances of winning this thing. And I believe that if you wait to the end to actually write, that is to say, working out sentences, if you wait to the end to write your technical narrative, you're going to come out a lot better. Some people take old proposals and copy and paste into a new one, and the first review they have is to go through a 22-page document generated from old proposals that they've got to cut down to 15 and address this topic. That's a horrible way to write proposals. Don't do that. I'll show you a much better way. Realize that a great technology is not going to carry your proposal. You need to show that you can manage the work. You need to show that you can commercialize the work, and you need to find the right transition partner, especially in DOE. They're looking for you to be able to get this product into society and have a societal impact. And the only way to do that is through a transition partner. You're traditionally not going to sell a whole lot of this to DOE. You may sell some to the labs, whatever it is that you're developing, but traditionally this is going into society. And if you go through all this and think, I just don't have a chance at this, well, think about getting engaged with some of the topic authors or prior solicitations. Go look at the prior solicitations, find topics that should be of interest to you, reach out to those authors during an off cycle when they've got time to talk to you, build some rapport, and ask them if there's a topic coming up that you could be interested in. That's important. Here's the typical sections that are in the FOA that came out from DOE, the instructions, basically the criteria. Review it carefully. Read all the sections. Somebody, get more than one person to read this whole FOA. That's really important. There are things in there that you're going to need to know that you can easily overlook. Now, here's an approach that I take to writing that proposal that is going to save you time. You notice in the blue over here are technical tasks. These are things that your technical team is going to be doing, coming up with a technical solution, your technical approach, and ultimately they're going to have to put all that information into the technical volume. But in the proposal itself, the proposal is a document that you're delivering, and it has its own set of activities that need to be done. Once you've made that bid decision, I think it's really important to get a template put together that's compliant with the instructions. As Bob said, we have one of those that we're happy to share with you. Get this template put together and then have a kickoff meeting with your team. If you're bringing a university partner in, if you're bringing a consultant in, get the team together and talk about your proposal as well as your technical solution. Tailor that template then at that point to your particular topic. You may be bidding more than one topic. You come up with a single template and then tailor it for each topic. Come up with your elevator story. And what I mean by that is these are the real win themes, the real reason that the DOE should give you funding for your phase one proposal. It comes from the stepping on the ninth floor with the evaluation criteria official and having them ask you, well, why should I award this to you? And you've got until the first floor to be able to answer that. So you need 2 or 3 sentences that really have the essence of why DOE should commit funding to your company. I suggest writing those down early on in the process, refining them over the days and weeks that you're working on your proposal to where at the end it reads very well, rolls off your tongue, and it's a good story that you can tell to anyone and they would pretty much get it. From that point, from your tailored template, I suggest going in and writing bulleted text under each topic. Just the points that you need to make. Don't be writing out sentences, just write the points that you need to make and then get someone to review this. I call it a pink team review. It could be whatever color you like, but get someone to look at this bulleted text version of the template and get them to say, yes, you're off in the right direction. If you do all that, by the time you get down to here to write the narrative, it's going to be a lot easier, a whole lot easier. After the narrative is written, it's very important to circle back and get a compliance check, have some review meetings, get some other people to look at this, secure your letters of support, and then the red team review, just like a few days before you're going to submit, have someone go through and read it very, very carefully. It's also very important, don't wait till an hour or two before it's due to create a PDF version. PDF does funny things to your Microsoft Word document at times. Go get that document created in a PDF a day or two in advance, look at it really carefully, making sure that page breaks are right, that you don't have any problems in the PDF version. So, in summary, do a compliant tech volume template, do your commercialization plan, build your strategic relationships in order to get your letters of support that you need, and then do the red team review of the final submission. Get someone to take your proposal, like right here after your narrative is written, get someone to take that proposal and go look at the evaluation criteria and see if they can find them in your proposal. An independent person to go do that. You'll be surprised sometimes that you put a lot of work into your proposal and they can't even find the criteria. So the work plan is very, very important. You need to get the overall objectives, the technical objectives of the program that works itself into a work breakdown structure with tasks and then the details of each task. That can be done in a statement of work format where you have the WBS title, what the deliverable is going to be, and how you're going to approach that task. You could do it in a WBS dictionary. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, but I think it's important to get the details in there and emphasize the how, not just what you're going to do in a task, but how you're going to do it. I'm convinced if you use some kind of Gantt chart, and I don't mean just something drawn in PowerPoint, but use a tool that you're going to use to manage your project. What is that? You're going to have a scheduling tool of some sort. Go ahead and create your basic schedule for your phase 1 proposal, make a picture of that and put it in your proposal, and then you're able to say, this is the way we're going to manage this project. So what are some of the characteristics of winning proposals? Obviously, they have to be compliant to perfection. The last thing you want to do is submit your proposal, have them give it to some GS 0.5 who's going to look at it and say, whoops, the font's wrong, and so they put it in the reject file without ever even being reviewed. Or they look at the margin, or it doesn't have the disclosure statement in the right place. Something is wrong, and so it does not go into the you have to review this pile. And evaluation teams are often, they like that because then they've got less to review, but don't get yourself in that position. Get a very compelling story in there. You know, why should they give this money to you? Why should the teapot invest in your company? What are you going to be able to do that's going to enhance the teapot's reputation within the organization? Nail those evaluation criteria. If you use our strategy guide, we're going to give you a compliant outline, and it's going to have some of the best practices that we've had over time that are going to help you. So please sure and do that. This is a slide you don't want to see in losing proposals, but here's some common debrief comments, and maybe you can avoid these comments. That's why we're writing these down. Fail to consider the complexities of the application. Bob mentioned that before. That means you just don't understand the end user position. It may be that the evaluator doesn't believe you technically. They don't believe you know what you're talking about. I mean, you need to write in a way that convinces the evaluator that you understand the technical landscape, the technical environment in which you're working. Another comment is lack of detail in the work plan. This is very common, where it's obvious the work plan was thrown together at the last minute. There's no real deliverable for each task in the work plan. It's not clear who's responsible for each element in the WBS. It doesn't tell them how you're going to do anything. It's just, here's what we're doing. It just magically appears. Spend time in the work plan. That's the largest piece of the proposal, so spend time there. Weak commercialization strategy. We've read commercialization strategies from companies that have given us their proposals. They've said, hey, we're losing proposals. Here's an example. Tell us why this is bad. And we go look at that commercialization strategy, and all it said was that we have a good history of commercializing products. That's all they say. They don't say how they can commercialize this product. They don't have any transition partner. They've not done any market analysis. Don't let that hit you. and then fail to respond to the requirements. I've already mentioned that. Please be careful. Don't let that happen. Study a solicitation, listen to the team or the transition partner, and then write a really compelling strategy. And here's some ideas about doing that. You know, the commercialization in DOE is a third of the evaluation points. And they talk about it as impact, the significance, the economic benefits, the likelihood that it would go to a product, that it could attract further to funding, and the appropriate of these management plans. So pay attention to the commercialization. It's really important. It's got a lot of points. It's got a third of the points. Give it the pages it needs in the proposal. Now, you realize, as I've said before, DOE is typically not the final customer here. The transition is going to be through a national lab or a commercial end user, more likely a commercial end user. So work through the national lab to identify these commercial end users and then build your commercialization plan out of that. The overall strategy of commercialization needs to take the TPOC vision, find a transition partner, and then ultimately get your product into the market. You need to understand the vision for transition. When you talk to the TPOC, that's one of the questions you ask them. Where did the topic come from? What market does this go into? What problem is it solving? Identify that program, identify the mission that that program has, understand the ConOps, the concept of operations for the end user. How is this going to make a difference in the end user's life? Find the transition partner that can help you validate that your solution is going to meet that need, that can show you how to integrate your solution into the system, which is typically where your solution is going. As I said, your solution is typically not going to be sold directly to DOE. It's going through a system integrator. A system integrator is going to give you requirements for getting your solution into the system. And then in the end, how are you going to make money? I mean, that's what the SBIR program is all about. It's increasing the gross national product of the country. So how is this going to make money in your company? Are you going to license the technology? Are you going to end up building things yourself and selling them and supporting them? Or do you want to do contract manufacturing? How are you going to produce what it is that you've developed? But come with, and I know you're just bidding phase one, but at the same time, you need to at least show that you're thinking about these things and that you're going to address them and mature them during phase one and phase two. And then how are you going to protect your intellectual property? That's really, really important. Probably the most important part of that is to define your intellectual property. What is it? Is there something you're coming up with that's a patentable idea? Do you have a provisional patent out there? Identify your intellectual property right off the bat and then go into protecting it. Once again, the commercialization task, it's important to have a guide that describes exactly what you're going to talk about in commercialization. It's important to do market research, not just say, hey, we're going into driverless cars, and obviously that's a big market. You can't say that. You need to have numbers. Research is backed up with good links somewhere where you've got the market data. Write your commercialization plan. Reach out to contacts within these markets. Do outreach and set up meetings and talk to people in the end user community. That's going to get you letters of support. It's going to give you more information about the end user, and that's going to come across in your proposal. So build these relationships, get these letters of support. At the very end, as I've said before, red team this thing, not just for the technical content, but also for the commercialization. Now, did you realize that in DOE, they do have discretionary commercialization assistance available for small businesses? All you have to do is ask for it. And they add $6,500 to your phase one budget. That's additional funding they're going to give you that you can then use to hire a commercialization subcontractor who's a specialist and in this area. TechOp is obviously one of those. We are going to work to build strategic relationships there to help you get those letters of support and to help you understand the end users and to get someone who's going to advocate you into the larger system. We also have free proposal resources, and basically what they're offering here is if you can replace the government appointed provider, which they will provide, with a like-minded, motivated small business. So I really encourage you to look discretionary commercialization assistance up in the FOA and take advantage of that. So thank you. Thank you very much. Robert, I'll turn it back over to you now. We have time for questions if there are any.
Yeah, if there's any more questions, feel free to send them along here, and we got a couple minutes we'll extend here to answer anything. Other than that, so what comparing a Department of Energy to a DoD, for example, since we had the DoD session last week, is there any major differences how you reach out to them? You mentioned that oftentimes at energy, the people you're talking to aren't going to be necessarily the transition place, whereas oftentimes within the DoD topic, the people you're talking to are probably some way, shape, or form will often be involved in the acquisition. Is that a big difference there? How do you think people should plan for that when they write a proposal then?
Yeah, that's probably one of the largest differences in that, of course, the DoD is, going to be the final customer. They've got a specific problem to solve and specific metrics to go after. There's a well-defined prime contractor that you should probably be teaming with and that sort of thing. With DOE, they are more interested in solving typically large energy-related problems that are going to have a high impact, and you're going to get your technology out into the commercial market. In some cases, your technology might get utilized in, say, a national lab facility, like for example, an accelerator facility, or used in conjunction with high-performance computing facilities and that sort of thing. But by and large, DOE is not the final customer. And the way that we approach that differently in DOE is emphasizing how your technology is going to impact, just the energy production, distribution, and infrastructure in a significant way.
Okay.
I mean, well, I was going to say one other difference is the rigor in the academic review for a Department of Energy solicitation or proposal rather, compared to some of the other agencies. DOE takes a bit more of an academic approach, and will look more at the technical merit of the proposal than some of the other agencies that I've observed. So you definitely want to dig in and cite some reference papers and maybe add some math. Don't put equations on the first page, but I definitely want to have some physics-based justification for why you're going to be able to accomplish the goals that you've set out.
Okay, well, there are no other questions that have come through here. Why don't we, but if there are any questions that come up after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to myself and or Bob directly. His contact information is at the bottom of these slides. I will endeavor to get these slides out to everybody in PDF form within the next few hours, and then we will also forward everybody the link to the recorded site if you have any follow-up viewing you want to do with kind of go over things again. We'll send that out to you in the next few days, hopefully. But I'm going to thank you guys for your time today, and good luck out there. And again, if we can be of any further help, let us know. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.